So, because I know Bishop and I have this conversation in our smaller conversations, because we don't have that tech stack at all, right? He's currently, so he hadn't had to worry about it, but as he does his future night and I did my future night, it's like, this is all great. I mean, and y'all know when I started all this, I got the concept, but when you start talking about the tech stack, I was getting glazed over. I'm less glazed now, but now it's like, okay, which one am I going to use for the price or the money or the functionality? And when I'm having a conversation with Bishop or Lindsay or whoever, I want to make sure that I have some suggestions. So Zahir and Kola, what are y'all currently using if you have your assets already built? What do y'all use?
Active Campaign, I thought.
Yeah, active campaign.
Active Campaign?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll give my 2 cents here, K-Del. Like at the end of the day, I think you got to pick your hard here. Because I love Active Campaign, but the biggest issue I was having is like their CRM component is not very good. And so you then have to build in extra things in order to get everything you want. And they don't have multi-directional texting, or at least they didn't when I was using it. And so like as I'm building out what I expect my CRM to do, my tools to do, I wanted something that was simple to use, that had multi-directional texting. It could do the automations. It was a CRM built in, and it allowed for more team members without charging me extra money. So these were all things that like for me were a big deal. And I love that I can make phone calls through my CRM and do all the recording. So I don't need something like, what is it, High Rail or I don't know. It's some app that you can record calls and do all that transcription stuff. So high level lets me do all that stuff for $95 a month. It's a little more than that because I then have to pay for the email side. So it's like I pay Mailgun like $35 a month, and then high level $95 a month. But I get it all for, 200 some odd bucks.
Okay. And do they talk to each other? Do they have extensions between Mailgun and High Level, or do you have to?
Yeah.
Do you
High
have
level
to
walks you through when you get into
I love
High
that
level?
image.
They like walk you through how to set all that stuff up. For the most part, there is still like I'll give like Active Campaign this piece that like the technical acumen necessary to set up Active Campaign and get rolling is like super low. High level is much higher. So there's some wins and some, again, pick your heart, because to me, High level is a superior system overall, but it requires a lot more work in order to like get rolling. And then there are some things that you got to kind of think outside the box to make happen that like Active Campaign already has built in. So.
And
is this, I have to ask Kara, is this tongue in cheek or?
Yes,
I
yes.
haven't looked at it yet,
I'm
but
not
I
a
saw
jerk.
you and Russell laughing. And so I was like,
yeah, go ahead and click on
let me
that
get
link. I don't know why you're confused by the tech landscape.
Thank you. I love it. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So since we're talking about email ESP stuff, here's my notes. I thought I did a little quick lesson on choosing an ESP. Maybe that was an old presentation I did, but when you're selecting an ESP, you have to look at your different levels of needs, right? So there's straight up just the email, the design, what does the tools look like? How hard is it to produce an email? There's also ESPs out there for deliverability. So if you were to, deliverability and automation, if you have a list that you're having trouble getting deliverability on, or you have a low sender score, there's actually ESPs out there that specialize in high level deliverability issues. I have them archived. I don't know the names off the top of my head, but since you're talking about a new list, that's not an issue. but we've tried to warm up cold, like you always hear about how do I warm up a cold list kind of an idea. We've done that in the past, and it's really debatable if the juice is worth the squeeze at that point. But you have deliverability issues, you have automation issues, that's your autoresponders, things like that. Does your CRM tie in? Do you even care if it ties in? There's also a thing around shared hosting, like ActiveCampaign. You can choose the cheaper plans. This is why MailChimp is always kind of a concern when you're a marketer using MailChimp, because it's a shared hosting environment, and it comes, all your email comes out of a single IP address. And
Yeah.
if you're shared on a server with, say, a spammer or someone with a really low sender score, it's a lowest common denominator game. You're going to be ranked as the lowest person on that shared server. And then you have, engagement tools. Does it have texting? Does it have link tracking? Does it have all that good, fun tech stuff stacked in behind it? Another one to consider is list upload permissions. So like if you do migrate a list from one ESP to another, like I know, especially for Zahir and Cola in the finance space, you're going to have a big problem trying to migrate your list to a new ESP. It depends on the industry. Health and finance are always the two bad apples, it seems like, where like
Why does that?
I don't know, just because there's so much spammy content out there in those two industries.
Is it because of the legalities, and so they
Yeah,
require a new
it's all the Can
opt-in if you
Spam
go to
Act.
so if you go to a new SP provider, they have to re-opt?
They either
Is
force
that-
you to re-opt, or you have to basically you need to prove that they are your opt-ins. If you go to LinkedIn and use one of these scraping tools and get 100,000 email, you can't just upload those to ActiveCampaign and start sending them email. And all the big ESPs are aware that people do this and have a lot of effort in making sure that it can't happen.
So the other thing on this, where does it, because we're talking CRMs, and in retail or anybody that has a tangible product, they also have a point of sale, which technically is a CRM, but it usually has very limited or non-functioning marketing aspects to it, or that's very pricey, like Square. It's both kludgy and expensive. So how do y'all, when you've got a client that you're working with that says that their point of sale is their CRM, how do y'all address that tech stack?
And I'm just gonna jump in on this one because I do it a lot.
Yeah.
Through the
Well, high level. I don't know high level.
High level is not the best for product yet. They're working on some stuff, but there are some, I don't know of a really great like single tool for product-based business owners, but to answer the question about like trying to help them understand the difference between a point of sale, a CRM, and accounting software, because that ends up being an issue too.
Right.
Is we really just walk through it. Like if they don't understand it, we show them what it does and then ask questions like, where would you find this information when I know it's not in there, right? And we talk about how it's important for their business growth long term, and then show them what it looks like when they're all working together. It can be challenging when you have a small product-based business that is really just trying to wrap their mind around it and have been working in something like Square for a really long time, and they've been successful in their business, to try to convince them, like, I like Square for entry-level email marketing, but like, I don't love it, right? So I work at some restaurants that have it, and they're like, I already have an email marketing system. And it's like, yes, but it's garbage. It's so bad. Like you can't do
That's why I was
anything
asking.
with your fault.
Right.
Yes. So that comes more of like sophistication and what the business owner is willing to do, but they can function with it. then we have to get them to a place where they understand why it's hurting them to some degree. But Square does have some really cool things that it does. So like, I don't jump in and try to overhaul them off Square, because, you know, it does pretty decent attribution, as far as like for email and text messaging. So
Yeah, I'm not, having sold software for many, many years of my corporate career, I'm never about unplugging anything, because I was on the accounting side, and the last thing anybody ever wants to unplug is their accounting system, because that just is a nightmare. But that's why I was trying to understand the tech stack and the interrelation and what the holes are, so that when I go forward, because I don't have any of them, I don't have a purchased product yet either. And so one last thing about that tech stack, where does your connection to your website need to be? I mean, is there anything?
That's another
that needs-
consideration is API and integration.
Right.
It's a really complex subject, because if you're like, I think email is still the backbone of all internet marketing, right? Like, it is your safety net. When all else fails, you have an email list that you can contact people that know and like you, right? So these are like important decisions. And so, yeah, integration to your website. Like, I really like ActiveCampaign because they have a super great integration with Thrive Themes. The HubSpot integration sucks, but I like HubSpot for other reasons, right? And so I have to weigh and balance those two. Another good question is risk mitigation. Like, one of the things that concerns me about things like Go High Level and these all-in-one solutions is, I hate to say it, but in our cancel culture, if they decide they don't like you, your whole business goes away. And I've seen that more times than I care to, you know? And so that's why, like, yep. And that's another consideration, right? Is download and backup all the time. That should be automated. You download your list and
what is Airtable? I mean, I asked, y'all got to remember, I'm coming
I
from
didn't mean to
corporate where we
add complexity. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That wasn't.
No, and I get it, but you realize I'm coming from a corporate world where we had, everything was mirrored, right? It was no big deal. We had backups on backups on backups just for hurricanes, you know,
yeah.
everything was mirrored and backed up. So it was never a problem, because we were 365 all around the globe. So it was never an issue. But in my smaller world of just me, I know all the things that need to take place, but shit, this stuff changes every damn day. And it's like, okay, I know there's a point of diminishing returns. I know there's a point of it's too fancy. I don't need the Bentley, you know, I need a Mazda.
Precisely. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, and I know my clients say the same thing. So I'm just trying to make sure I have a good grasp. And I'm all about, I mean, I'm sitting with a T1 WD on my stuff and the cloud, because if Amazon gets pissed, or whoever I'm using, not Amazon, Apple gets pissed at me, at least I have a hard, you know, I have a WD T1 here to get a hold of everything. So I'm all about risk mitigation. That's what I did with security software. But I don't know what to use in our world. So like Airtable, or, you know, just using
Airtable is like an online version of Access, right?
Okay.
If we were
I love
like,
Access.
yeah,
Or even getting older, FileMaker Pro.
Okay.
I really like Airtable. I say, when I say it's an online version of Access, it actually hurts my soul a little bit, because it's much more than that, but like, it's a database tool. I mean, there's a lot of really great things you can do in it. And again, not to add complexity, but there are small business owners that they don't have the money to purchase a Go High Level. And so I can build them a CRM in Airtable with like tools like MailerLite and Airtable together. And we have a pretty powerful database email marketing CRM tool that will do much of what they need done.
Yeah. Airtable's really cool software, but man, talk about a black hole.
It's complex. It is so complex, but it is so good. So good.
Yeah, it's really good. I use it for couple of things, but not a lot.
But it's also one of those things that once it's set up, it will take care of itself. I mean, anytime you're doing backups and stuff like that, once you have it in place and you've got it going, it's not that big a
Yeah.
deal. So I can bring in
Yeah.
an implementer to do that
Yeah.
piece of it.
Yeah.
And other really nice thing about Airtable, and I almost am hesitant to go here, is that most things integrate with it. And so it can be a nice place to be that median. If
Mhm.
you need to create an integration, a lot of times it can be a trigger point for other things that you need to have happen. Because it
Okay.
is such a large scale database. I've yet to see very few tools that don't have an Airtable integration or don't have some sort of like Zapier built in on the back end that you can do an Airtable integration.
That's what I was going to say is Zapier is also a pretty key tool sometimes for connecting things.
But Zapier truly is like a bridge, right?
It's just a
it's more like
connector.
plumbing.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
connector. Yeah.
Yeah. But
That's what I sold for years.
I think right now, Kara and I are the only ones using HubSpot, and I really like it. HubSpot also is trying to do the all-in-one. They have a page builder and all that, and their tracking is exceptional when you use those tools, but I don't use those tools. I use Thrive Themes. I find it much better. I don't know if Kara, you guys don't use it. You develop all your own stuff, right?
For like websites and stuff. Yeah, we don't use the.
Yeah. You don't use the HubSpot
CMS.
pages. Yeah.
No.
So I'm going to flip it one more question. And the question is, of all of these, which one has the best customer support for people that get stuck using their process? I want a human being that I can talk on the phone. And I spend way too much money for Geek Squad because at 2:00 in the morning, when my printer will not speak to one of my laptops, but the other, I call Geek Squad and get an answer. So of all of the support, I mean, Russell, you and I have had to do stuff with HubSpot and Allaware, and it takes a couple of layers and a couple of days. So that's why I asked if any of these have just email support. I don't want it because I'll never get it resolved.
Mm-hmm.
I've had good experiences with my HubSpot support, but I don't do phone calls with them. Can I just caveat the HubSpot thing though? I actually wouldn't recommend it for you, Kdell. It gets expensive fast, in my opinion.
It's super expensive.
Yeah, and to get all the features we're talking about and things we do, we pay a good chunk of change for it. So
yeah, it's kind of like
no worries,
Salesforce. Salesforce can get super expensive.
Yeah, I don't do Salesforce because to me, it's a true corporate enterprise,
Yeah.
It's more about
companies.
It's more about managing revenue than it is about managing sales.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, a little fun fact, Salesforce as an ESP, they have an ESP product, has the best deliverability of all the ESPs. I did not know this.
I can't imagine why.
This guy at Agora told me that. That's what Agora uses.
Kdell, I would say, I know Active Campaign, when you sign up, you get a rep, like you can call someone. A high level, not so much, but they have a really active community. So if you're having a problem, you jump into the community, you drop it in there.
Sure.
And somebody can answer it pretty quickly.
Fair enough.
With Active Campaign, there's 4 1-hour sessions to onboard you with an individual. And then after that, you have to schedule time with their people, in 30-minute increments or 15-minute increments to work on your stuff.